slowly reveal information.
Right, but that's different than...
For example, our darkest fears about spiders and how scary they are.
From week to
Well,
week.
what's Zach's darkest fear?
We talked about this last week with the
Losing
gore.
me.
It's not really a darkest fear. You just don't like it.
Losing me.
Yeah, losing Matt. That's a good one.
I have expressed that before.
Losing me is like a close second.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Watch No Evil. I'm Matt.
And I'm Zach.
And I'm Val.
Yeah, today we are joined by our special guest, Valerie Siegel. Val, let's start off by telling everybody what your relationship with horror movies is.
Well, to be fair, Zach's relationship with horror movies is largely, if not entirely, formed off of my love of horror movies. So you're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, you really tricked him into liking the genre.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did with T.
Yes, horror movies are the tea of the film genre. So today we are going to be talking about the classic 1986 film Chopping Mall, directed by Jim Wynorski, but possibly more importantly, produced by the famous Roger and Julie Corman. So you might not be familiar with Roger Corman, but he's one of the most prolific film producers of all time. He's also one of the youngest filmmakers of all time to have a retrospective at the Cinémathèque Française, because he was recognized by members of the French New Wave and the Cahiers du Cinéma. He's also the co-founder of New World Pictures. Some hits of his were Little Shop of Horror. The original, 1969 Little Shop of Horrors was his.
I thought that, given the likeness of Ferdy to Rick Moranis, that he might know Rick Moranis.
For sure. There is definitely an archetype being fulfilled in his movies, and that's actually one of the things. He is a producer, but he has a significantly deeper hand in films than a lot of people would actually expect him to have. And besides being a producer, he usually works directly with the director, and there's a great story with Jim Wynorski where he talks about meeting Roger Corman and Roger Corman giving him the essential do's and don'ts of cinema, because with Roger Corman, he hasn't lost a dime in working in Hollywood, and the reason he is able to do so is because he's basically making pop cinema, or cinema that's done on a low budget but has an incredible prosperity, and Chopping Mall was one of them.
You trying to tell me there was a budget on this movie, Matt?
Yeah, there was. They had to make the robots. And they had to rent out the mall.
I'm sorry, Val, do you think that those laser effects paid for themselves?
And they had to pay that one janitor for the 3 lines that he had.
Yep, you got me there.
Well, so do you know anything about the mall?
It's a
No.
real mall.
It is a real mall. They went to a real mall, and it's the same mall that they used in Commando.
That I also saw.
Guys, if they had not used a real mall, building that set would have been
given
the entire budget.
given
That
some
would
of the-
have taken all their money.
Given some of the store names, I thought it was kind of fake, because some of those store names were just really cheesy or just totally unbelievable. But I guess they were real.
Well, some of them were manufactured. I mean, there were a couple that were nods to other directors that Roger Corman
Yeah,
had
the
worked
sporting
with.
goods store, which I cannot remember. It's Poshiva's or something like that.
That's actually the demon in the second Conjuring.
Poshiva's.
Actually, I take that back. That's the demon in the Conjuring 3. All dogs go to heaven.
Poshiva's. That's Jesus' evil cousin.
But so there's a lovely fascination, I think, with malls in horror films, and my sort of entrance into those was actually with the Dawn of the Dead zombie movies. Have you seen this movie?
No, this is one of the ones that we need to see. This is one of your favorites.
I believe a long time ago, but...
It was a 1978 George Romero film that took place entirely within a shopping mall. And I think that there's something that's sort of amazing about using a mall as a set, because it gives the ability to then use the stores as a vehicle for providing the characters with the means of defense. So for example, in these zombie movies, they have the cafeteria where they can go get food, or they have the sporting goods store that's miraculously filled with hundreds and hundreds of guns, and also none of the ammunition is locked up. So it's really sort of a Deus Ex Machina for the characters to just have like any opportunity to find things. So it's just like, hey, so we need like an inflatable blow up doll for this gag that we're gonna do. Oh, well, luckily this mall has a Spencer's Gifts in it. I think that's one of the appeals of using a mall as a setting. And man, this movie just is not good about it.
No, and I think you're right with using the mall because it's this really enclosed space, but like you mentioned, it's just really limitless in terms of what you can find. And gosh, yeah, they spend most of the movie in a furniture store.
That's all the setup.
Right. The furniture is the only thing holding the mall afloat.
I mean, furniture is expensive, so...
Well, especially, too, after they spent all of their budget on their goddamn security system that has no operating buttons. It's just walls that have no indication of what anything does.
We're already kind of getting into issues with the plot of the movie and the things.
I think that the whole movie is an issue.
Yeah, it is called Shopping Mall. It's kind of what we're getting into, but...
That's the best part of the film, is the title.
But why didn't they have like a fail-safe? Like, they didn't have any plan for if the circuits got fried or like the robots became unruly in any way. They didn't have like hey, here's an emergency release button.
They weren't going to make a fail-safe. They didn't expect it to fail. And also, the lightning made it happen.
They sure didn't expect lightning to strike the tallest building around and hit the metal security controls.
I guess the security guards were the fail-safe, or were supposed to be the fail-safe,
right,
because they can like look at the cameras and be like, oh, like that's just a normal person. It's not like a thief or something.
For they were immediately murdered.
Right, and that's another issue, is that why aren't they like kept in a closet or something in the guard station? They're kept like literally 5 feet behind the guard's chair. And
why are the guards wearing science?
They're wearing lab coats. That's a whole different thing. That
the guard, puts their coffee down, hits a button on the control panel. Next thing you know, they're getting sleep darted by the robot behind them.
I don't think that they even like have like remote control over them. I think it's just like they're supposed to be completely automated.
We'll never know if they had overrides because they just died right away.
But
if we shut down the motherboard, the whole thing, and that's their whole plan too. The kids are just like, if we shut down the main computer, they'll go offline. It's like, but these robots can't communicate with each other besides talking out loud. So how the hell are they communicating with the mother computer? I mean, this isn't, they don't have wireless.
the robots have complete autonomy.
Right, and it really doesn't make sense that they're like talking to each other and like forming plans with each other like verbally, because they're running on, or they're supposed to be running on programs. And they would be running on the same program. So they could communicate through that without talking.
But no, Zach, they all have to have distinct responsibilities and personalities. How else are we going to differentiate that there are three?
But they have personality. I didn't
Probably
notice.
the very large numbers from 1 to 3 printed on each robot.
And that they never showed after the first scene.
Well, but remember, the Robot 1 is clearly in charge.
Oh man, what if they did like that old like high school prank thing with them, and they put 1, 2, and then 4? And they're like, oh, there's another one around here somewhere.
Just to trick the thieves.
Oh, perfect.
Just to trick the thieves.
Yeah, I guess that you could say that that's a chopping pitfall. I have a plethora of chopping mall puns.
That's good, because not a whole lot happens in this movie.
Yeah, well, whenever they're trying to like drag out the plot, like when they have 1,000 gratuitous shots of the lightning striking the building and the models walking down the stairs, I would call that a chopping stall.
Matt, the entire opening sequence of this movie was like 10 minutes long.
Oh my gosh, we need to talk about the opening credits.
And all it was just this conglomeration of things that happen in a shopping mall.
Well, it's okay, so
like, and honestly, some things that don't happen in a shopping mall.
just slews of swimsuit models
Oh, yeah.
going
Right.
down the escalators
Right.
to nowhere.
Okay. Also, like in the opening credits, it was like that there's like that subreddit that's where did the soda go?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like all those like it's for people who don't know. It is basically a compilation of as seen on TV ads where
Just the
if you-
before.
Yeah,
product.
just the before where it's like, you ever have this issue where, your car's windshield is always dirty or something, and they show some guy, like, pouring Pepto-Bismol on his windshield, but, like, in the most, like, worst acting of, like, oh, no, I accidentally spilled Pepto-Bismol on my car's windshield.
Or fan favorite, the woman who cannot contain her plastic food containers for Tupperware.
Yeah, and she's just, like, throwing it.
And she's just being hailed with the Tupperware, but at the same time, she's just flailing her arms around.
It just looks like it's supposed to be a disaster, but it's like poorly orchestrated and poorly acted out.
And
That's
it's
this
always
movie.
in great. It's
And that's-
always in grayscale.
You just explained this.
Well, that's
film.
like all the opening credits. It's like they show, like, there's that one lady, like, walking through the food court with that tray of soda. And it's like,
And then she spilled it on
right. Well,
everyone.
there are like so many things are like, she's gonna like get hit by this guy and like walk into this person and like then it's gonna all spill, and she like dodges all this stuff, and then she finally gets to the table and there's like she puts it on the table and the table just like breaks under the weight of this tray of sodas, and then it spills everywhere. It's like. And there are some other things I don't even remember, but it was like everything was going wrong.
It's a metaphor for the inconvenience of mortality.
Sure.
You dodge all of life's obstacles, and then at the end, it doesn't really matter.
This could have been a short 5-minute film that was
Yeah,
just the opening
we're
credits.
done. Thank you for listening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then there were like the like really cheesy like cockroach noises as like all the people crowded on the elevator.
Oh yeah, and all of a sudden it like
Right.
speeds up like
Yeah.
it's
And
Koyana
there's like a little
Scotty.
boy who's just got chocolate ice cream all on his face.
Yeah, it seemed like they were trying to make a point or just like be funny, and it was just confusing.
Yeah, right. It's weirdly voyeuristic and experimental at the same time. It's like the filmmakers didn't know how seriously they were going to take this movie because it was just like, oh, we're going to have a close up on this swimsuit model's butt, and now we're going to go to a sped up shot of a bunch of people getting into an elevator. Oh, and now we're going to come back to the waitress, and it's like
I'd like
a
to
lane.
talk about
Pick
the
a
man
movie.
carrying a bunch of boxes on the escalator who then falls and drops all his boxes when the swimsuit models go on the other way on the other escalator.
He's literally not moving, and he just trips.
Like you're on an escalator, not walking.
He wasn't even like
This is
walking
the
up that
express
stairs.
purpose of an escalator. It's for you to not have to move your feet, and this man trips and drops all of his boxes. I think the point of the intro was just to kind of be like, look at like the all-American shopping mall, like in all its 80s glory.
Like, hey, this is a
This
a
is
real mall,
relatable
guys.
to you,
Like,
the
hey.
audience.
Oh, and of course we can't forget that like once they have the two, or they show the short film test demo of the robots. And then they're doing the presentation, and then there's the husband and wife in the front row,
Mr. and Mrs.
who are
Bland.
just commenting.
They're just heckling the presenter.
Which, in all fairness, was probably the most relatable part of this movie to me.
They're trying to be like a Statler and Waldorf. It's just like, laser eyes reminds me of your mother. It's like, is this a comedy? What's happening?
And then the middle one has. What was the quote? I have it written down because it was hilarious.
The middle one
The middle one has unpleasantly
unpleasantly
ethnic quality.
Yeah.
Unpleasantly ethnic quality.
Which is,
Sir,
Who
they are
came up with
identical
this?
robots.
but he had a 2 on him.
They are identical robots.
It's not supposed to be funny.
I feel like it
To us.
Are
is
you
though.
sure?
I'm pretty sure because I was about to say about like the opening credits and with the heckling. I feel like
Sure.
yeah, of course it's bad, but it's at this point in time they were like fusing horror and humor. Wasn't
for
much
sure.
of a thing, so they're kind of like testing the waters with like the balance of that. And I think that's like part of what the opening credits was like meant to do is like give the audience an early impression of like, hey, this is called Chopping Mall. you came to a theater to see a movie called Chopping Mall about killer robots, like, don't take it too seriously.
I think that this was the time period where they were starting to try and like give horror movie characters like the really snappy dialogue, because it sort of reminds me of things that like Freddy Krueger would say in the later Nightmare movies. Because in the first one, he's just like this hulking silent villain, but as they go on, he gets snappier and wittier, and it was almost like, well, we're using robots as our villain, so our snappy dialogue has to come somewhere else.
I mean, even in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, like, isn't that meant to be somewhat like self-referential and like kind of?
Oh, for sure. Like when he pulls the girl into the TV and he says, "Welcome to the primetime, bitch."
I think it's supposed to like you're supposed to get this like kind of excited sense of hilarity out of it, kind of like a lot of moments in this movie. Like, just for example, I think it's
Linda.
Yeah, sure, Linda.
Linda.
Anyway, she says, I guess I'm just not used to being chased around a mall in the middle of the night by killer robots. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, how could that not be a self-aware quote?
Yeah, because it's supposed to seem like this super dramatic moment, because I don't remember what happened right before it, but they were all like arguing and they yell at her about something. She's like, I guess I'm just not used to being chased around a mall by killer robots. It's like,
what? And who is?
It's one of those things, the dialogue throughout this movie is questionable. And sometimes it feels like it's trying to be really organic. And actually, the moment where Allison and Susie get off work and they're like walking over to the furniture store to visit the guys, they're having this like small interaction. And it feels very realistic. It almost seems a couple of times like the dialogue was improvised for a majority of it.
And there are like some moments, I think it's basically in that scene that you were just talking about, where one of them, like, I think we all talked about this, with the hairspray. One of them like sprays.
She sprays it directly into her face.
Yeah, she like puts it on her forehead.
Guys, I'm telling you,
like,
it was the
spray.
80s. That's how they used hairspray.
Yeah, on one part of the hair, she
look,
didn't even get the important part, which is the back.
No, she was concerned about her bangs.
Well, there are like things like that where it's like an action is made, where it's like it's just the gesture of the action that is meant to be seen. It's like,
Sure.
Look, I'm spraying my hair, and it's like, oh, we get it. She used hairspray. But the action isn't done correctly.
I suppose. I don't know. Maybe she just had really great foresight and knew that, in a half hour, she was just going to be on her back on a couch in a furniture store.
So that actress, that's Barbara Crampton. And I mentioned her. Do you know anything about her? Do you know what she's famous for?
I heard you mention her name.
Certainly not Chopping Mall.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. She is sort of a scream queen, because before Chopping Mall, she was in Reanimator, which was another, like, huge hit horror comedy movie. So that was where she got her, like, horror movie start. And then from there, she just sort of became, like, a character actor. And she was then in You're Next, which was in 2011.
Is this the girl who played Susie?
Right, yeah. The one that got lit on fire and then for some reason turned into a man wearing a long sleeve blue shirt that was not previously a part of her ensemble.
Are we going to talk about this now? Because this is going to have to be, we have to talk about it, but...
We do have to talk about it. Go for it, Val. I want to hear it.
Do you know how much of a point they made of the fact that she was in a jean jacket in the vent? A sleeveless vest jean jacket. And she couldn't protect her hands on the hot vent because she didn't have sleeves that she could roll down. And then suddenly she gets lit on fire and we switch to an aerial view of a man in a wig wearing a long sleeve blue cotton shirt to hide his man arms, presumably.
Yeah, well, to protect him from the fire,
Right. It was real fire, but also, so,
And
the hair too was not even remotely close to the hair that
wig
she
was like
had.
platinum blonde from a Halloween store.
They went to the mall's Party City right beforehand.
It did not. And in the one shot, so they switched to an aerial view, but it starts off where we're kind of looking at her while she's on her here being relative while she's crawling towards the camera on the ground. And they've got this horrible platinum wig flipped in a really weird way so that it'll hide this man's face from the camera. And the shot's only there for a split second, but it is bad. The wig is horrible. It's covering this man's face in a way that hair does not fall.
And it's like they don't even try to obscure it, because then they show like a significantly closer up shot of him just lying on the ground on fire. Because that was the point at which I was just like, wait, she had a short sleeve
Right.
shirt on.
It wasn't even
Wait.
short sleeve. It did not have sleeves.
It
And
did not
suddenly
have
we're wearing
sleeves.
a button-down shirt that goes all the way, full-length sleeves.
And they just hold on this visage, and it's just like, man, they really just told that stunt performer to lie on the ground and then lit him on fire and just like let it go.
And she's screaming
And
the
I
whole
mean,
time.
that's not even the most. Yeah, she's screaming the whole time as her stunt double is just not moving.
Well, you know the funniest thing, I was looking up some fun facts earlier today, and this said that Barbara Crampton did most of her own stunts, and it made a huge point out of that. And I'm like, you mean the girl who got lit on fire that turned into a dude?
Wearing the incorrect costume.
To be fair, the sudden switch to a man wasn't the most unrealistic thing that happened in that scene. The fact that her head didn't immediately explode from the hairspray was sort of alarming.
Yet the other heads explode when they
Right.
get shot with the laser
Oh.
beams.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
The lasers of variable power.
Yeah, so what?
That's another point of contention here.
Yeah, what is up with these laser beams? Because one, these robots are like equipped with all sorts of stuff to like basically be dropped into a war zone, and then they use mirrors at some point to bounce
Yeah.
the lasers back
Yes.
at the robot, which implies that they're like photon-based lasers, which even in the 80s, well, photon just means light, and because mirrors can only
Okay,
mirrors only reflect light.
Mr.
Einstein.
Science over here.
Oh my god.
Mr. Bill Nye the Seagull guy. Jeez.
You guys never heard of photons?
No, we have.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay, but here's the thing: is light a particle or a wave, Mr. Science?
light particle or wave? Well, in this case, it's a particle. Because it has to be a matter that does damage.
So here's the thing. Here's what. So in the beginning of this movie, they have their little presentation, and they get their brand new death robots. And
Killbots.
Mr. Bland specifically starts whining about how do we know that these things like aren't going to like hurt someone. And the man who purportedly created them says, "Oh well, it's fine. Like they've got some like sleep darts and like claws. So like it'll be totally
Yeah.
fine. Like they're not even equipped for this." And then we come to find out that number one, so there's 3 points here. One, their claws can just like open up someone's neck. Additionally,
Rend through
can
flesh.
be shot through someone's skull. Two, they've got laser beams
That also make heads explode.
that can make your head explode. And three, they have like C4 putty.
Yeah,
They have-
they're equipped
they've
with
got
plastic
foam
explosives.
explosives that they can detonate with an electrical shock, which also was not mentioned in this presentation.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. Every time that the robots are out, they're not expressly saying that they're gonna kill. They're saying detain.
Right. They weren't programmed to kill people. It's,
Yeah, exactly. Like the American police.
I think the argument
Pointed-
could be made there that they were programmed to kill.
Look, all I'm saying is
I don't know, I'm
C4
drawing a lot of similarities.
C4 foam did not have to be a deadly weapon.
Also-
So back to the
Who are the
variable.
real killbots?
Okay, back to the variable power, variable strength laser beams here. So the majority of the time these lasers are used in the film, these kids, they get hit with them, and it maybe gets them a little bloody, or it looks like it kind of burns. Their clothes usually get singed right there.
Like a laser.
Like a lightsaber wound, like it cauterizes itself, So they get a little ouch, like wow, that's probably a 3rd-degree burn. Like damn, this isn't fun.
Mhm.
Which happens multiple times to what's the first blonde's name? Not Susie.
Leslie?
Happens multiple times to Leslie, and then she turns around to face these things while all her friends are watching, and one happens to hit her right in the head. And damned if her head doesn't just explode.
It bursts.
You're right. It's very much so a burst. It's like a water balloon getting hit with a dart.
And you can tell they're so proud of it too, because when they were doing the cue credits at the end,
That was her credits.
Everybody else has like
they're like, look at the editing we did on this.
Oh,
yeah, because like right before there, it's like to give the credits for Allison and Ferdy and Rick and Linda and Susie and Greg and Mike. It shows them like giving like a smile from before the movie started, and then for Leslie, it shows her head being
it's her
exploded.
screaming and then her head exploding.
Yeah, it's funny because the laser is variably powered throughout, because not only are they able to use the laser to fire, beams that lightly singe, but also it turns into a significantly different beam when they have to cut open the giant hole in the jewelry shop. It's just like, this is not the same laser. You didn't even use the same color laser
maybe
ring.
that was a different type of laser, Matt.
Oh, they're equipped
Yeah.
with both. Zach, what's the other type of laser?
That must have been like a gamma ray. I don't know. Laser saw. Let's call it that.
I feel like we should talk about, we kind of skipped ahead to the robots, but it's just the setup for this movie.
No, I want to talk about the lasers more.
Okay,
I have
alright,
another
you know
thing.
what? We'll talk
So,
about the
here's
lasers
some
and then we'll talk about the other thing.
philosophical discussion about the lasers.
Yep, alright.
So I think that the robots would have been slightly more frightening if they didn't have the lasers, because it just felt like it was like
Cheesy?
it was a crutch.
Mm.
It was like, they can just kill you right away on seeing you. So like, here, be afraid of them. Whereas I feel like if they were just sneakier
Sure.
and
Which they
even
were.
Yeah.
I feel like that's actually a really valid point because they start out, so the first death is, so Mike was the first one and the thing like comes up to him at the cigarette machine and he's like, oh, like, look at you, here's my badge, fuck off.
Klaatu Verata
And
Nikto.
then it just kind of like grabs him by the neck and it just kills him. And then
Oh, it puts him to sleep first.
that is
Val.
true.
They do
That
use
is
the
true.
darts
They use
once.
the dart, and then
Oh my God, it might be okay.
once he gets knocked out, it goes and it somehow cuts his entire neck open. Very minimal blood when his body is found. But then we have the janitor, and it's got all this. It somehow like reasons that there's all this water all over the floor, and it shoots its little electrified stun thing at him and misses. And he's like, oh, good job, you stupid robot. But its actual plan was to electrocute him, which it does. And those are actually like, it shows some kind of like planning and an intelligence almost, where it's like, oh, this could be a force to be reckoned with. And then immediately following that, we just see Leslie get her head just blown off by these lasers.
Freaking laser beams.
And that's all they do
Yeah.
the rest of the movie. I mean, they even kind of show them being sneaky with the security guards and like trying not to get caught, and then they, secretly, very stealthily kill them. And then all they do the rest of the movie is wildly shoot lasers at the people.
Yep.
And also, they're not. they like make them be like, oh, they're so quiet and sneaky. But like in the like original presentation at the very start, like the thing turns its head and it's just like the loudest loudest like hydraulic hum you've ever heard.
Right.
And it's just turning its head.
Well,
It's not even moving
it's
yet.
really quite loud in any scene throughout the whole movie where they aren't making a big deal out of how quiet they are. In every other scene, you can hear it from a mile
It's like, we
away.
get it, they're robots.
Right.
Because sometimes they just needed the people working on it. They just needed some sound design, like when they gave the actors
Right.
tap
And
shoes.
I think they should have given the robots tap shoes.
That would have been scary. Can you imagine? Like they're in a store
You know what?
and it's here, like coming down the hallway.
Well, it would make more sense too. So have you seen the cover of the Chopping Mall DVD?
No.
So the cover of the Chopping Mall DVD is a robotic, lifelike hand holding a shopping bag with a decapitated
it
head
sure
in
is.
it,
Look at that.
which has nothing
Yeah, what's this robotic hand? Where's that coming
to do
from?
with
Why
the
is its
movie.
thumbnail so long?
Right?
Yeah, it's like someone had a really
Oh.
neat idea for a design, and
'Cause
then they just went with it.
Because the slogan is, where shopping costs you an arm and a leg.
Right, but then the arm should
Yeah.
be a human
There's
arm.
no severing of limbs in this movie.
There's no shopping.
That's what I was going to say. 8 out of 10 could have been more chopping.
8 out of 10. Oh, God.
Well, it's funny too because they do. I totally agree with you, Val, and about them like trying to be sneaky and then all of a sudden just going all to the
Right.
wall, like we're gonna go crazy. Because with Mike's body, they kill him against that back wall, and then they take the time to
They
move him to
hide
hide him
him.
against the
Right,
thing.
and they showed all this cleverness and intelligence that could actually have been kind of intimidating, and then they just kind of took it and just sort of chucked it straight out the 3rd floor window.
Yeah, it's like one of the producers came in halfway through and was just like,
More lasers.
I think that we need an explosion.
More lasers.
Or like 12. Michael Bay came in.
How many explosions? Their whole budget is used on the laser effects and then the practical
And
explosions.
honestly, on
that they had
on
for the film.
the thin down
paint.
paint as well.
The paint, oh my god, yeah. Well, none of the that's the other thing too, is just like even with the explosions, that paint explosion is just like, oh, she poured like 7 buckets of paint on the ground and then some paint thinner and then one flare, and simultaneously the entirety of the paint store explodes. Not just the area where the paint was, the entire thing.
Here's the thing, Matt, is I don't know how much painting you've done with just normal, like, interior paint in your life, but I'm gonna tell you, that was not normal interior paint. Whatever was in those
Yeah, they got
buckets,
this-
that might have just been tinted gasoline.
They really actually they went to the flammable paint
Right.
shop. You know, it's the industrial,
Honestly.
the high quality alcohol based
Yeah.
paint that explodes. That was a gratuitous explosion, and you know, a highlight of the movie. But it's not the worst explosion in the film, and I think you know what explosion I'm talking about, where where Rick drives his
Yeah.
little cart. He drives his little cart that he found at 3 miles an hour into one of the robots. It electrocutes him to death, and then it explodes.
It did explode. But not
It's
a
like, what
lot.
part
It
of
didn't
this
explode
exploded?
a lot because the little, God, what even was that, like a security vehicle?
It looks, it's like one of those small like things that they use to wax the floors.
Yes, perhaps something like that. And it really was still, it looked like it was still in working order after the explosion. So it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah, it only reached 3 miles an hour because he literally drove into it from a total distance of 4 feet.
You know what they should have done? Instead of that thing, they should... You know how like some malls have like those little train things for kids to ride
Yeah.
around in? They should have done one of those.
Now that would have just made it seem silly.
Yeah. That would have been the final straw.
Well, that's one of the things I think that this movie, I mean, it falls right into that like tradition of the horror film stereotype, because you have the dumb blonde and the dumb jock, which is Mike and Leslie. And then you have the preps, which were Greg and Susie. And then you have the cool kids, which was Rick and Linda, who also for some reason was hanging out with high schoolers, but they also owned their own like mechanic shop and are married. And then you have the nerds, which were, you know, Ferdy and Allison. It's like, oh, they made it so distinct. That's the thing too. It sets up really throughout the movie that Linda, Carrie Emerson, is gonna be the one that survives.
It
And
sort
she's
of
like
does.
the final girl.
It really does, because she's kind of, it sets her up as like, oh, she's got the mechanic smarts to start a car, and she kind of is the one who has the good ideas.
Yeah, because she's the one that comes up with like the Molotov cocktail gasoline thing
And
that
going
they
into
use.
the air vent, yeah. And then
Yeah.
her death is pretty much her turning around, staring at the robots, standing in place, and screaming.
Wait, did
Yeah,
it shoot
and
her
then
or something?
it-
I forget.
Yeah, she got shot like right in her torso because again, she turned around as a non-mobile target, just standing there waiting for death.
I feel like that point in the movie was like in these like teenager slasher type movies. I feel like that's usually the point in the movie where it's like we have 4 people left and only 1 or 2 of them are going to survive. We really need to just kind of slaughter them at this point, and it doesn't
We
necessarily
need to up this body
right.
count.
It doesn't necessarily need to make sense at
And
that
it
point in the
didn't.
movie.
Oh no, it absolutely didn't. Because they kill her and then they kill Rick in like 2 minutes, and their death is so inconsequential to the rest of the story. Like, it does not matter that they just died. No. It's funny in a way too. You do sort of get the hint that Allison is about to be like the final girl when she takes the gun from Ferdy and then like Deadeye shots the propane on top of the elevator.
Her dad was a Marine, Matt.
Why did we need to know that?
She inherited
So here's the thing,
marksmanship.
and I know this is, for a movie as bad as this, I know this is a really, like, too much of a big picture complaint on my part, but it's just this thing in media where it's like, if a girl does something cool, we gotta call it out really obnoxiously, and we also have to give her some kind of excuse. Like, Allison couldn't just like have grown up using a gun, like she would learn how to use a gun and she's good at it. No, like, she has a good shot because her dad is a Marine. It's just, there's always got to be some excuse for a female character being able to do something.
Because it also, she says it like so dejectedly. It's just like, oh, this is some sort of trauma thing. But it could have just been like, oh, nice shot, Allison. And she's like, thanks, I played Annie Oakley in a school play during middle school. It's like, that's great,
Honest,
cool.
Yeah, that could literally, that made me mad.
I've been practicing the duck shooting game at the carnival my whole life.
It's like she could literally have just done like a quirky smile, like a mysterious smile, or just said thanks. Or
nice shot, Allison. Thanks, I have the House of the Dead high score at the arcade downtown.
That's just like a real gun. Speaking of great snarky lines, I think the single greatest line in the whole movie was like when they were trying to break into the sporting goods store, and they're like, oh damn, how do we get in? And the one guy, I think it's Greg, he's like, don't worry, I've got the keys, and he just throws the crowbar through the window.
hands down,
That's
the
the
best line.
It's the best moment.
Best dialogue of the entire film.
Okay, so another philosophical discussion here.
Okay.
So...
Ooh, Mr. Rene Descartes over here.
Well, so we gotta try to figure out some things about the movie and not just complain about the weird details. So... the Killbots. So they have like the controlling mechanism on the roof or whatever that's supposed to be gets struck by lightning, and that is implied that is what causes them to have homicidal tendencies.
The exact opposite to Short Circuit, I believe.
Do you think that the robots naturally had homicidal tendencies and like the lightning just fried the controlling? Like it basically like released the human control on them, or was it that the lightning itself is what caused them to malfunction and kill?
So that's a great question. And I have two sides. I would like to give a complete non-answer by saying it is entirely dependent on which side of the robots you want to focus on. So the first robots, the first part of the movie where they were being sneaky and showed intelligence and some kind of plotting capability, it would make me lean towards they simply now are autonomous and can express their homicidal rage. But then the second half of the movie where all they do is go pew pew laser makes me think it's more that they're just malfunctioning and they're trying to do their jobs, but they're confused about what their job is.
To me, it's sort of a trope to have them, though, have that like killer instinct as part of them, because it's the same with Short Circuit in reverse, where you have a killer militaristic drone that, when struck by lightning, becomes a sweet old friend. And it also reminds me of the episode of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror where Bart gets a killer Krusty doll. Mm-hmm. And the Krusty doll has two switches, and inside on the back you can switch it to good or switch it to evil. And I think that this is part of it, because I think about how powerful and how effective these drones are. There's no way that there wasn't some sort of investment from the American military that helped fund these. They were also probably dropping these in Kuwait at the same time they were dragging them to the Sherman Oaks Galleria.
Well, so here's a point for that they are evil all along. I don't think they're malfunctioning, because when Ferdy shoots the one right in its laser face, it goes like laser malfunction or something like that. Like it announces its malfunction at that point. So you think that if the lightning had caused a malfunction, they would have immediately been like, obviously they have like malfunction protocol in there to like warn the user when a malfunction is happening. So you'd think that would have happened right away if the lightning had caused that.
Sure.
You don't think that bot was trying to communicate with the other bots that its laser had been blown out and that it needed backup?
Maybe, but it knows the word malfunction. It can verbally say the word malfunction, so there's no excuse from the robot.
I still, and I think I would lean towards the intention is that they were perhaps always evil, but simply being controlled just from the idea that it's kind of why people are afraid of robots, right? Is that we don't know if they've just got this like killer instinct lurking below.
It's like in the movie I, Robot, where the head robot, they're sworn to protect humans at all costs, and it runs its little algorithm, and it's just like, the biggest danger to the human race is humans itself. So to subdue and cull these humans is the best way to save the population because it'll reduce gases. So, they could have been like, oh, well, we're going to protect the Galleria, and there are people in the Galleria now, and we're doing what we're told. And they purport that these kids and the technicians pose a threat. So it could be, just a mishap of programming, or maybe the lightning struck at just the right time, that there was some arrhythmia to the way that the code was being read, and it skipped the line that said, "But don't kill the ones with a badge, please."
Or just
and
don't
so it just
kill
like
any
jumped
of
it.
them.
I'm pretty sure that's
It was probably coded in C++. It was bound to happen.
Or maybe
Java.
Demon lightning.
Oh.
No, not Java.
Let's do some trivia.
Okay, so trivia time. This is my fun pun is Fergalicious Death. Pause for laughter. No? Okay.
Well, that was just an atrocious pause.
There was already a pause. So, the way that this is going to work this week is that I'm going to ask each of you 3 questions. A little friendly competition. And Val gets the easy questions.
This is in no way stacked against Matt.
Damn it. Okay.
Matt's seen this movie 6 times, and he knows everything there is to know about horror movies. So, that's his words, not mine. And so he gets the hard ones that I already know that you know the answer to one of them.
Well, that's bullshit.
Okay.
Well, he said it earlier in the episode. I didn't write it like so.
All right. I'll let it. I'll
Okay.
give it a
So,
pass.
we'll go Val first.
Okay.
So here's your question.
See how little I know.
This was filmed in a real mall, as we've already discussed.
Uh-huh.
Which member of the real mall's staff was against the film? And this is multiple choice.
Oh,
so
okay.
is it A, the owner of the mall, B, the shopkeepers, C,
That's
the
not
mall?
a person.
You can't hear this, but I glared at it.
Okay, all the shopkeepers as a whole.
I can just
Continue.
count this wrong.
Continue.
So, to review. A, the owner of the mall. B, the shopkeepers. C, the mall's head of security. Or D, the mall's Santa Claus actor.
I mean, I kind of, like, logically, I want to say the head of security, because it sort of portrays mall security as not a good thing.
Is that your final answer?
She's correct.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Okay.
It was the mall's head of security.
The owners were so invested in it that they were like, yeah, do it.
Oh, no, that's, like, major publicity for everybody else.
Also, I feel like if the owners were like, no, we hate it, it wouldn't have
Right.
happened.
The Santa Claus just threw me off, because I just... Not the sort of thing you usually come up with on your own.
What?
It's really out there.
I was like, what other kind of personnel are there in the
You should
mall?
have said the Easter Bunny.
I don't think every mall has an
Why?
Easter
There
bunny.
malls have an Easter bunny?
Yeah, I'm terrified of mall Easter bunnies. Oh no, I revealed... Crap!
It always comes out on Watch No Evil.
You slowly reveal information.
You can't appear as a special guest on this show without revealing your
Oh,
secret
son of a
here.
bitch! Okay, I'm not
Okay.
infallible.
And now we let in the Easter bunny.
Okay, well, 1 point for Val.
1 point, and
Okay, 1 point for
maybe
Val.
a consolation point for your Easter bunny fears. So, here's Matt's first question. Matt, What was the original title for this film?
What was the original title for this film? Killbots.
You're correct. Killbots. And do you know why?
Because they had killbots. Why? What are you asking? Like,
Do you know
why did they?
Why did they change it?
Oh, they thought it would be too childish.
Yeah, so actually they were afraid of it being related to like Transformers, which is very big back then.
They were worried about the litigation from Transformers.
Well, not only that, but they were like they didn't want it to appeal to children because
These look like Decepticons.
there are heads exploding and there's boobs. So
Mall security.
right,
Killbots in disguise.
right. So Killbots. You're correct, Matt. So 1-1.
I hope
Man,
that
this
was
is
the
gonna be high
one you
scoring.
knew he knew.
That wasn't actually.
Ah, fudge.
So your next question, Val.
Okay.
How many Killbots were actually made for the film? They featured 3, but how many do you think were made?
I'm trying to decide I'm trying to remember if they ever even showed 3 together at one time. I can't remember them ever having all 3 in the same shot together. No, wait, that's not true. They were in the same shot in the security bay. I don't know. 3?
They made 5.
Jeez, Matt even knows the one that...
Matt, why you gotta
They
do
did
me
make
like
5.
that, man?
Well, they made 5 because they used 2 of them as like for damage shots.
Sure.
Right.
Right, like the shot where his arm got blown off, except for the robot still had both arms.
Right.
Yeah,
I should
exactly.
have known better just from that shot.
Well, and there's also that, remember that one scene where I pointed out that there's like, they're at the top of the escalator, and it's like that robot's clearly too wide to fit,
Right,
on
and
the
then
escalator.
there's a thinner one later.
and then there's one riding on the escalator
Yeah.
like 2 seconds later,
Yeah.
like, that's not the same
Yep.
robot.
Yeah, no, I should have known because there was an arm that didn't belong to any robot, so that's really my bad.
Right, so Matt, do you know what the robots are made out of?
What the robots are made out of?
Yeah, like, how did they make the robot?
It was. Oh man, I don't know if I
This
know
isn't
what they
an
were
official
made out of.
question,
It was.
you don't have to answer.
I thought
It's
this
not
was
an official.
trivia.
No. I was just asking if you knew. Sorry.
I don't know. Aluminum.
I'm not asking
'Cause
like
it was
the
made by
specific alloy. I'm like, what objects? Okay, I'll just say.
Oh, it's like a box. It's like a.
Well, kind of. So the basic mechanism of it is just a wheelchair frame,
Okay.
and then
Oh.
they actually made like the treads out of actual conveyor belts for like a quote realistic look, and they were remote controlled, and you can tell
Right.
that just by watching the movie. Like they move around like remote controlled things.
Right, like the one that does like a 15-point turn in the elevator.
Right.
Yeah, because that was Roger Short's like robotics team. He's known for stuff like that.
Right. So we're at 1-1.
Okay.
All right, Matt. Now this is the one you already answered earlier. What movie do Ferdy and Allison watch on the TV in the furniture store?
It's Attack of the Crab Monsters, 1957 by Roger Corman.
Correct.
See, I don't feel like
Matt pulls into the lead.
Yeah,
2-1.
that's okay. We all
I wasn't
knew-
going to ask you that question.
We
You weren't gonna
all
know.
knew Matt was gonna win.
Did you know the answer to that?
No.
Oh, okay. See,
I'm
I
just
was
saying,
scaring
that's
you.
very easy for someone like Matt.
I'm almost certain that I bought my dad that movie in a Roger Corman box set like 2 years ago.
Matt's
Probably.
dad, please confirm.
Big Matt.
Matt Sr., thank you.
All right. So, Val's next question.
Yeah. This is the last one, right?
Yes. Make it end. We're
Well, it's
I'm
this
so
is
bad.
first
I'm
round of
just so
Jeopardy.
bad at
The
this.
points
Yeah.
are doubled in
there's a
round
lightning
2.
round.
I really panic under pressure. I'm sorry,
A
guys.
lightning round. It rewrites Val's code.
There is a question I'm going to ask both of you
Okay.
at the end.
Okay.
That was intended to be
Okay.
a possible tiebreaker, but
Yeah.
now it's just for fun. But this question, what were the Killbot claws made out of?
Oh boy, they did have a lot of close-ups of those. I kind of want to say those little like item grabber things, like garbage pickup things.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. The official term is plastic toy grippers.
Okay, so I'm right, is what you're telling
Yeah,
me.
it's exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah.
By saying those. They were that. So, 2-2. All right, Matt, for the win.
Okay.
What movie does Mike reference when saying Klaatu burrito?
Verada.
Chipotle.
Sorry. When saying
Chipotle.
let me start this.
Verdania.
Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Okay, you know he knows the answer to this.
What movie is he referencing?
Let me. You can't see that I flipped my hair. All right, let me think. Well, if we're wanting to go all the way back in time, we'll have to think about Klaatu, Verada, and Nikto. Now, Nikto is the species of alien that they use in Star Wars, and Klaatu and Verada were two of the Star Wars characters that get thrown into the Sarlacc pit. Or it's also used as the incantation that he reads to summon the demon in The Evil Dead, interestingly enough. But I believe that the origin of it comes from the film The Day the Earth Stood Still in 1951.
Yep.
Matt, he did not expect you to
You're
know
right.
that.
Well, because last night he was like, that was from The Evil Dead. That's what they said in The Evil Dead.
He was trying to trick you, Matt.
And I wasn't trying to trick him. I was just seeing if he actually knew like the origin of it. And he does.
I mean, did you know that I knew about the Star Wars knowledge?
Matt, you were a wealth.
Is that real? I thought you were making that up.
No, those are so two of the race of creatures is the Nikto, and then Klaatu and Barada are two of the characters of the Nikto species that get thrown into the Sarlacc pit during the Jabba's palace scene.
Oh, so this is just some weird Hollywood joke.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Matt,
It's everywhere. Well, Klaatu is the name of the whole thing. The in joke here, and why he's using it and why it's a reference to that is because Klaatu is going to destroy humankind in The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Klaatu Barada Nikto is what his handler, quote unquote, says to him to get him to stop. So it's like a stand down command for robots.
Okay.
That's what the joke is.
That makes sense. So yes, Matt, you're correct. So we end with 3-2 in favor of Matt.
what was the tiebreaker?
Uh,
Honestly, I'm proud of myself for getting 2 out of 3. So.
I was. You did get the head of security thing. So now the duo question here. I'll ask Val first. How many days do you think it took them to shoot this film?
Oh, not very many. Well, they could only film once it was closed. I don't know. Shot in the dark, 5.
Okay. Matt?
Oh, way more than that. It's got to be at least 20 to 25. I'm going to say 22.
Was that actually a guess?
Yes.
Oh my god, you got it. It was 22 days.
I have no idea how long it takes to produce.
Let
a
it be
movie,
known.
So
Val hates guessing the answers to things like this.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
She put up a strong front for this.
I did put up a front, but I'm not gonna lie. I don't really think about it because I don't like doing it.
Yeah.
And I just kind of say a number and or category.
I mean, think about all those explosions. They
To
really
get
just
out
set
of it.
things up to
That's
bring
fair,
those.
yeah. But see, again, I kind of just say whatever I have to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because Zach likes to make me guess, and then when I say I don't want to guess, he often just continues to not. He won't give me the answer until I at least fake a guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to just kind of spit something out. You should know this
Hey,
by
if
now.
you enjoy hearing trivia on Watch No Evil, send us an email. And prove to Val that guessing is fun. Well, thank you for tuning in to Watch No Evil this week. Let me just thank my lovely wife for joining us. Thank you, Val.
You're so welcome.
Here is a complimentary Watch No Evil t-shirt and bumper sticker that is totally a real thing that I'm
Thank
handing
you.
you right
I will receive those items from you.
That you will put on your mutually shared car.
Yes.
now. The t-shirt.
The T-shirt
It's
goes
a
in the
car.
car,
It's
right?
a car t-shirt.
It's a card. Have you not
Matt,
seen the
you
card
should
t-shirt?
see the size of this.
What? 20XL?
Oh, I was just about to make that joke. Anyways, thank you for appearing on this episode. This is Zach,
And this is Matt.
and we will have a new episode for you next week.